I've gotten a few DMs and emails from people asking me what I would recommend for most people looking to try the hobby of RC racing with little to no prior experience. Now, the correct answer to this will always be the platform most used at the track you attend with frequency. But for the sake of this video, why don't we go a bit deeper? In this video, I'll be going over each electric class in RC racing, to go over each and every brand and what I would recommend based on the merits of the car itself and the support and information behind it, not necessarily just part support. Before we begin, I'd like to thank the sponsors of this channel: A-Main Hobbies, Cow RC, Leadfinger Racing, RC Trophy Chasers, and Peach State Hobbies. Anything you guys purchase in the links in the description below will directly support me as well. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. Let's start with a popular but easy class to talk about: two-wheel drive buggy. Now, there are a lot of different RC brands out there that make two-wheel drive buggies, but in the US at least, you're only really going to see 3 of them with any real relevance. Those being Team Associated, X-Ray, and Schumacher. There are other brands out there for 10-scale off-road. TLR used to be one of those main contenders, but I'm not sure anymore. I know TLR is releasing a new two-wheel drive buggy soon, but with most of their pro team either leaving or being fired, I'm not sure it would be wise to put all our eggs into that basket right now. All other brands out there are indeed there, and they are good buggies, especially the Mugen MSB1. But unless they really make some headway in the 10-scale world, especially in terms of support, I don't think those 3 will be challenged anytime soon. So, out of those 3, which one would I personally go with? Well, why don't we look at each one individually? Now, once upon a time I was very harsh on the B7, and to be honest I still kinda am for reasons I'll get to in a bit. But it's important to note that most cars out there that release a new generation go through some growing pains. It just so happened that the B7 had a few, and Associated was already the biggest 10-scale company in the US by far, so expectations were high. That being said, the B7 has improved in later batches as things like C&D blocks have been redesigned in order to withstand more punishment. Along with that, the B7 is very easy to drive on most surfaces you'd encounter in 10 scale, those being clay, carpet, and AstroTurf. It's also a very unique buggy in terms of its design. The 5-gear has been done before on conversion kits from companies like Willspeed, but not to my knowledge on a full-blown factory kit, save for one option part on a kit I'll get to later. There are still some issues with the B7 though. Chief among them include chassis bending, something A-Main themselves had to deal with recently with their B7, and idler gear stripping. These 2 things plague the buggy still, and it's led to a lot of hop-ups being designed for the B7 to remedy these problems, like different transmission designs from R1 and different chassis from J Concepts. If it was me, and I really wanted the peace of mind that my B7 wouldn't go wrong on me, I'd either run aluminum or other aftermarket idler gears and maybe a chassis if I had $110 burning a hole in my pocket. Other than that, I probably wouldn't recommend the B7 to a beginner racer unless they were mechanically inclined and or a good driver. Another brand that I have some history with is Schumacher and their LD3 platform. Schumacher has really been making a push here in the US to become a much more popular name in the 10th scale world, and for the time being it seems to be working. The LD3 is their newest two-wheel drive platform, and it comes in 3 variations. The LD3M is the standard version for most high grip applications, and it comes with an aluminum chassis, a gear diff, and universal rear joints. The LD3S, or stock spec, is for, you guessed it, stock racing. It comes with lightweight internals, a slipper eliminator, and a carbon fiber chassis. The LD3D is the dirt version for low grip tracks like some indoor dirt tracks, outdoor dirt tracks, and indoor gym floors. Now, if you plan on actually building a Schumacher car, be sure you have the right tools to do so, even if you've built other cars before. One notable feature, and for some problem part for the Schumacher kits, is the fact that you need to drill your own bleed holes for the shock caps. There's also the slightly poor fitting of the gear mesh in the gear diffs if you shim them too much. If you're more experienced, you'll have less of an issue with these things. If you are more new to the hobby and practice of building your own kit, be sure to take your time. Once they're built, however, the LD3 is actually pretty easy to work on and tune depending on what you want out of it. Of course, it has an easy access diff and holes in the ball cups to make changing your diffs and turnbuckle positions easier. Now, if you're watching this in the UK or other parts of Europe, or perhaps you're close to a carpet track, chances are the support for Schumacher will be very prevalent, even more so than Team Associated in some cases. Overall, the Schumacher is, once again, a good option if you're looking for something a little different and are good in a patient builder. This is partially why I personally chose to run the LD3D in the 2025 season. However, for what I'd recommend for others looking to get a good starting point into 10th scale racing for two-wheel drive, we have our next brand. X-Ray and their XB2 2024 and 2025 edition are probably the objective best two-wheel drive buggies on the market today, and that's for a few reasons. For one, there's the build quality, which to be honest is only matched by Yokomo and maybe Mugen. The instruction manuals are easy to understand and clearly explain what you're supposed to do, along with what does what on your car when you change it. Like the aforementioned LD3 and B7, even though I didn't mention it, the XB2 comes in both a dirt version with a ball diff and dirt transmission, and a carpet version which can come with a 5-gear transmission made specifically for carpet and extremely high grip dirt like you'd see at Hoosier RC Complex. This is a new thing with the 2025 version of the car, so it'll take a few weeks at the time of me writing this to see if it has similar problems that the B7 had. Even with the 5-gear transmission, the XB2 is a pretty simple buggy all things considered, at least until we start to get into the option parts. It also helps that X-Ray is looking to take the 10 scale world by storm with a lot of drivers, mainly from TLR, looking to switch to X-Ray and already having a lot of success. As a result of this popularity, you'll find plenty of help regarding the X-Ray platform. The main issue with X-Ray for most is their prices, specifically for spare parts. One two-wheel drive chassis is the same as an 8th scale chassis for other brands, and this price difference applies to pretty much everything including arms, shock towers, and other wear parts. And this isn't even getting to the option parts which you can buy straight from X-Ray like active diffs, which can cost twice as much as regular gear or ball diff from another brand. Overall, if you want the absolute best quality and are willing to pay the price for that quality, the X-Ray XB2 would be a good, safe option. Moving on to four-wheel drive, we basically have two choices: the belt-driven Schumacher Cat L1R and, well, literally anything else. The reason I say this is simply because pretty much every four-wheel drive buggy out there right now, save for the Cat L1R, has a very similar shaft-driven layout. Unfortunately, this kind of leads to not a whole lot I can say about these cars, and which one should be good for someone new to the hobby of RC racing because they're all so similar. My main advice for this section would be if you're planning to run more than one class in 10th scale like 4-wheel drive and 2-wheel drive, like a lot of people do, I would run the same brand in both 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive for the simple reason that you can share some parts from one car to the other. Things like shock parts and ball ends, for example. The only difference here is the fact that 4-wheel drive from Associate is actually a very safe and very good performing choice for most people. Like I said before, there isn't much setting it apart from other 4-wheel drive parts in terms of design, but it is a little bit cheaper than other 4-wheel drive buggies and is easiest to get a hold of and maintain with spares and such. If you're watching this and already have a B7 but don't have a 4-wheel drive, the B7 4.2 CE is definitely your best bet. I'll be linking the X-Ray and Schumacher buggies as well due to the fact that I mentioned them in 2-wheel drive as well. Moving on to 8th scale, we are spoiled for choice. Like, really spoiled for choice. There are a bunch of cars out there that really could be a good starting point for a beginner. Even some RTRs in there as well, which I'll get to in another time. For now though, let's focus on the kits. Even though there are many different cars out there that all have different designs and layouts, they generally fall into two different categories when looked at with a broad stroke. There are pillowball cars and C-hub cars. The naming basically refers to which type of front suspension the car has. Pillowball cars have a pillowball system in the front, and C-hub cars have a multi-piece C-hub design like you see in a 10th scale 4-wheel drive buggy. Beginning with pillowball cars, there are quite a few out there to choose from, many from very well-known companies in the world of 8th scale and 10th scale racing. Off the top of my head, there's the Associated B4.1E, the Mugen MBX8R Eco, the S-Works S35E Evo, and the X-Ray XB8E. Pillowball cars tend to be very aggressive in terms of driving style and reward drivers who push themselves to the limit. If you have a very delicate driving style, you may struggle a bit with a pillowball car depending on your setup. Of course, with setup you can make your car drive how you want it to, but that's generally the trend that you'll get with most pillowball cars. As for which one you should get, well, there are a couple of stipulations to go over, as each of these cars are good choices for their own reasons. The S-Works and Associated are by far the most popular right now in the year of 2024 and probably 2025. The The X-Ray is probably the best build quality of any car on the market right now, even though the prices can be a little bit jarring for many people, specifically in the spares department. And the Mugen is quite simply a tried and true tested platform that simply works and is easy to work on and understand. Now, if you're going to run saddle packs, that pretty much leaves out the Mugen as a contender, as you can only run shorty or full-size 4S batteries. Out of the three that do run saddle packs, well, it's pretty much a dead heat between the S-Works and the Associated in my opinion. Both are well supported across the country for the most part, the S-Works more so on the East Coast and the Associated more so on the West Coast. The X-Ray, like I said, is very well built for the price, but for spares, it kind of sours the deal a little bit for me, especially since A-scale parts are more expensive by nature and X-Ray parts are even more expensive by nature. It was slightly more acceptable with 2-wheel drive and 10 scale as it was less expensive, but this just ain't it. On the same subject of battery usage, if you want to use 4S shorty packs, the Mugen will probably be your best bet, as that was designed from the ground up to be used with 4S shorties, whereas the B4.1 usually does best with saddle packs, though 4S shorties are an option. After being given the opportunity to drive both an Associated, S-Works, and Mugen, I'd say the Mugen felt best sorted and easy to drive for me personally. The S-Works and Associated were both very fast and can probably be tuned to work well in the hands of someone new to the hobby. But the Mugen, with Adam Drake's build guide mind you, was by far the easiest car to drive. It was also the easiest to work on and tune, so if I was to recommend a pillowball buggy for someone's first kit, I would highly recommend the MBX-8R Eco. Now, for C-Hub cars, we have an even larger choice of cars out there that have many different designs and battery layouts. C-Hub cars are usually able to be driven at a less fast pace than pillowball cars without the car getting upset or losing pace. If you drive a C-Hub car at 90%, it'll drive just fine. If you drive a pillowball car the same way, weird things will happen. Moving on to the options for C-Hub cars though, like I said, it's not like you're spoiled for choice here. Unlike pillowball cars though, the choice is a little more clear-cut for those in the US. If you've never raced before, or perhaps you just don't want to worry about things breaking, there is literally one option. Tekno is by far the most popular 8-scale C-Hub brand, and I'm willing to say it's also the most popular 8-scale brand among regular, non-contracted drivers. This is for good reason. The newest generation of the e-buggy, the 2.2, is already a good buggy with very few drawbacks. It's built mostly for tracks that most people in the US would encounter, and the buggy itself, like I said, was very durable. Overall, if you want a durable car that you can learn with, that won't bite you for crashing, the Tekno EB48 2.2 and literally any of its iterations will be a great option for you. For the sake of this video though, and as a thought exercise, why don't we remove the Tekno from the list? What becomes the best option for C-Hub users? Well, this sort of leads us to three main C-Hub cars that I would recommend for a beginner other than the Tekno. The Mayako MX-8E, the Kyosho MP10E, and the Sparco F8E, each for very similar reasons. For one, geometry-wise, all three of these cars are very well sorted and are very easy to drive out of the box. They're also very customizable and are able to suit a wide variety of tracks from Redovon to Silver State. This is where things start to differ a little bit depending on what you want out of the car. Let's start with the Kyosho. The Kyosho MP10E TKI2, which I'll now be referring to just the MP10E, out of the three cars as I mentioned is probably the most tunable in terms of what you get out of the box. There's a lot that you can do with the Kyosho that can tweak how the car drives in marginal or large increments. Where the MP10 starts to falter is in the maintenance department. Cleaning and maintaining a Kyosho buggy is a huge pain, especially considering the amount of little grooves and channels all around the car to reduce weight, and the fact that the buggy doesn't really have an easy access diffs. They are a little easier to get into than say an HB, but not too much better. The Kyosho is a really good buggy that will reward steady drivers, but as of right now I don't think it's the best for most people. It is best for some though. The next car I'll list, that of not a Tekno, is the Sparco F8E. The F8E is a highly customizable e-buggy in pretty much every way. You can run upper arms or upper links, you can run multiple different types of battery configurations from saddle pack configurations to sorties to full-size stick packs in multiple different positions. You can run the car in a 4S shorty pack or full-size stick packs, but much like the B4.1 I mentioned before, most setups will use the saddle pack system in some way. Point is, the F8E is a very adaptable buggy. To be perfectly honest, there's not much I can really say about the F8E as a whole other than it's a very good buggy for many people. I had driven a demo car that the team manager John Blaze gave me to practice which you're seeing on screen right now, and in terms of driving characteristics, the car kinda goes faster the less you try to push it. At least that's how it was set up out of the box. As of right now, the Sparco brand as a whole is growing in popularity as well, especially here on the East Coast, so if you need help regarding the car, there is support there. Overall, the Sparco is a solid buggy for those who want a C-Hub car that's not a techno. The last buggy I want to go over is the one you're seeing on screen right now, the Miyako MX-8E. Specifically, it's my MX-8E. After I was lent the car to run for a little bit, I made the decision to buy the actual car for myself. There are a couple reasons for this. I already did a review for the buggy, so I'll keep it brief. For one, the buggy was exceptionally easy to drive right out of the box with the regional setup that comes with the regional kit. Secondly, out of the 3 buggies I've mentioned in this section, the Miyako is probably the easiest to work on and build for the most part. It does have a lot of shims and spacers like a Schumacher, but nowhere near as bad. Now, one thing I've said in the past about the Miyako is that it's the most fine-tunable car in the market today, and this is still true, kind of. You see, the original car you receive from buying a Miyako MX-8E from the store or from A-Main is basically a slightly nulled down car that you can get with the Miyako membership or certain option parts. An example of this relates to the rear hubs, as the regional kit that I have comes with pretty standard hubs that you'd see on other buggies. An option part that a lot of membership guys are running and testing is the 3-piece rear hub design. It's basically the same principle you'd see on a 10th scale car, but redesigned to be durable enough for an 8th scale application, allowing you to adjust axle height. This, along with the different options to run multiple different KPI or kingpin inclination settings, different upper arms instead of links, and a few other things can really turn the MX-8E into a rabbit hole of setup. None of these parts are necessary to do well in most scenarios on most tracks, but they are there for you to experiment with if you want to. The main reason why you buy a Miyako over the other two is going to be the resources you get when you buy a Miyako kit in the first place. Once you scan that QR code on that A4 sheet of paper or on that chassis, you're given access to a lot of info on the car and how to make it work for a multitude of different scenarios. You're also given access to the Discord server, which, to put it in context, is like a more active and fundamentally better version of a forum from back in the day, like Ultimate RC or RC Tech forums. If you're the kind of person who wants to learn more about tuning and racing as a whole, getting the Miyako MX-8E is my own personal choice for a C-Hub buggy that isn't a techno. I hope this cleared some stuff up with you guys asking about what would be a good starting point for people looking to get their first RC kit for racing. If you know someone looking around this holiday season for a kit, be sure to point them to this video if you wish. Also, if you liked the video and found it helpful, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. Also, you can subscribe to my Patreon if you want to support me another way. Speaking of which, I'd like to thank my active patrons Michael Williams, RC World Discord server, Ben Reeves, Dave Armstrong, Rob Bedingfield, Caden Merks, Ian Petrie, Buddy Howell, Jeffrey Kunz, James D. Anderson, Shane T. Ruth, Gable Barber, Maxim RC Hobbies, and especially Morrison Watt. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Alright, e-Truggy. Just buy the Techno. It's the only truck that was built from the ground up to be a truck in the first place. So, yeah, just buy the Techno e-Truggy.